All right. Yeah, let's go. We're live. Live on YouTube. I gotta figure out that vertical stream on the YouTube side. I guess they do like a shorts version as well. But anyway, we are gonna talk about stocks today. We're gonna go live on TikTok as well. So welcome in if you're watching. I mean, I know this is a stream that's kind of mid-afternoon. It's kind of like you're getting off work, kind of chilling. But if you want to join me today, we're just going to be talking about stocks and so I've been following USO, United States Oil Fund, for a couple of days now, and I've been watching to see if this fund moves up or down within certain limits because I've been trying to day trade it. I already got a couple likes on TikTok. Thanks for joining in, guys. I really appreciate it. And so, if you guys are on TikTok, by the way, I'm going to figure out how to do this, but I have on YouTube, not sending you over to YouTube, but I do have on YouTube a more visual idea of what I'm talking about here. I got the charts and everything on YouTube. So if you're on there, on TikTok, I appreciate you joining in, liking the stream. But if you're on YouTube as well and you want to see visually what I'm talking about, you can do that. So I actually was able to day trade today, and I was able to pull up about a $4 to $5 profit. And so when I traded, I had a couple of things I was looking for. One, this particular bullish candle, there's actually several bullish candles on USO today. And what I was looking for was a big run up, just like this one. And I actually bought in right around that top when it started consolidating. This red candle right here is kind of when I bought in, and it still went up a little bit more before trading back down and eventually going way down. And we ended up with it wasn't much, but about a $4 profit. So I'll take that. And I'm going to keep an eye on it because we're looking at a couple of opportunities to trade this particular stock over the next few days. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. But that's kind of what I was looking for, and I was pretty proud of that. It actually ended up coming back up and then settling down again. And so I'm going to have to look at this a little bit closer. But I do have some idea of where I want to enter in again and possibly keep that at the forefront of my mind because I want to be able to keep uh, trading this particular stock, especially with the news and the news going crazy today with the OPEC, the United Arab Emirates leaving that, which I guess is kind of like a coalition, if you will, for oil and stability in the oil markets. So that's what caused it to kind of go up today on a rapid pace. And so I'm going to keep an eye on that. I don't think that USO continues to go up and up and up. I think what we're looking at is this is just kind of either the peak or near the peak. It might continue to go up a little bit more, but we're probably near the peak with this because at some point we're going to get some news. My prediction, not financial advice, we're going to get some news that brings the oil funds, the oil markets back down because it's so high right now already. You guys might be feeling with gas prices. I know I've been feeling it with gas prices. And so that is probably where we're going to be at with oil actually reached over $100 a barrel today. And so what we're looking at is not much more of an upswing that can happen in the near future, in my opinion. And I think that at any moment, and that's what's crazy with these stock markets and stuff, is now it's kind of a game of news, and it has been for a while, but because of the political climate today and the tensions in the Middle East, and then you also have um, the either side, blue and red, as you will, with the United States is so polarizing that you get these kind of moves in the market where you see a lot of these big candles, as I'm showing on YouTube with some of these charts here. This candle right here, I can't even zoom out here. But this candle here, this happened overnight. So we're talking, this happened maybe, what was it, 7 a.m. I want to say 7, 8 a.m. So this was before the market was even open, and it surged, right? And then there was a huge sell-off during the market open. It's kind of been consolidating ever since. And so that's kind of the power of the news, because when that news came out, that's exactly what happened, is it surged up. And now we're looking at, okay, so now what next, right? And everybody's selling back off. So it's kind of correcting itself. And we're looking at about 140 on the USO right now. And with oil itself, I want to see if I can find. So oil in general, just under $100 a barrel, 99.98. So we're looking at with oil, or about 100 now. So it's kind of fluctuating because the market's still open. And actually, market closes at 4. So we're looking at monitoring this market until the market closes today on Tuesday here. And $100 a barrel is pretty crazy. In fact, a lot of people were looking for oil to get to that point and to get to the $100 mark, because it's kind of like a psychological thing. And so a lot of people predicted that once it gets to 100, and when I say a lot of people, I know me for sure, but when it gets to 100, and if it can stay above $100 a barrel, you're looking at prices that could go pretty unlimited on the upside. And I don't think that's going to happen to me personally. It could. I think what's more likely to happen is you're probably looking at a stock here, or the crude oil futures. You're probably looking at options to maybe trade up or down. It's probably not going to go up too much more because of the news, right? The futures with oil are going to be something that drops 10%, maybe even more, depending on the type of news that comes out. And so when we get some positive news where we get a deal struck where the Strait of Hormuz is officially open, or we get some news that says something positive about that, then you're also looking at some big swings downward in the market. And really, that's what kind of makes this a little tough to trade, because you could have all the technicals in the world, and the technical stuff does apply on a daily basis when it comes to trading the charts and stuff. But when you're also talking about the news can break the trends pretty quickly, and you'll see resistances being broken on the high side, especially nowadays when you got all the news coming out about how there's no resolution right now. There's just no resolution, unfortunately. You got all these tensions in the Middle East, and everybody's just standing their ground. There's nobody really giving any way. And so that's just going to keep pushing the price up, right? You get the same amount of demand relative to any other time of the year, or any other year per se, but now you add on top of that less supply, and this is exactly what happens. I mean, it's economics 101. You're going to have something that increases in price when people don't want to supply as much, and when the same amount of people want to buy that, then that's exactly what happens. So it's kind of consolidating here. So the last 15 minutes of the day trading day here does sometimes get pretty volatile, and we'll see how that reacts over the next 10 minutes here. Not too much volume. We get a lot of our volume during the beginning of the day, and so I might actually start trying to stream some day trading stuff in the morning, maybe from about 8:30 to 9. The market opens at 9:30, so I might try to do some day trading there. But a lot of the volume is in the morning. When the market first opens, there is just a mad rush to get your orders in, to get your buys in, get your sells in, and that's what usually happens. And then sometimes towards the end of the day, when the market closes at 4, you're also looking at some people who rush to get their orders in right before the market closes. Maybe they're banking on things to happen where you get oil, for example, that can surge 10% or drop 10% overnight with any given news headline. And then you're looking at people who want to get into that market before it closes, so that they can potentially make a bunch of gains in the morning. Before the market opens, they're already in the trade instead of waiting to buy in the volatile market, especially when you got more volume in the morning. It creates higher volatility, which creates higher prices. And so you sometimes get better prices when you're buying stuff towards the end of the trading day when there's less volume, specifically for options, not necessarily for if you're just buying a stock, but if you're getting options and you're trading on a daily basis with those, you may find that you get better prices when you buy towards the end of the day versus the beginning. And now I will say with a caveat that does sometimes change because again, implied volatility can be really, really high or really, really low. And you get this thing called IV crush, and IV crush will determine the price of what you're trading as well, especially if the volatility is going against you. Because if you think a certain stock or ETF, or in this case, I'm talking about crude oil, USO, if you think those will go in your favor, then it goes against you. So you're thinking it's going up, but then it actually goes down. Then you're talking about a big swing, especially with options, because options it's kind of like a leveraged market, right? You're buying a contract for 100 shares instead of just one share. So especially at the market open, you're looking at things within the first 5 to 10 minutes that are really, really volatile. And most day traders will stop trading at about 11 or 12 right before that lunch hour hits. So we'll see. We got another 5 minutes here before the market, or before the last 15 minutes anyway, where the market might see a small surge in volume. Right now, crude oil is just kind of trading sideways. We're not seeing much at all with that. USO tends to follow crude oil because it is the same market. It's just the United States has their own fund. And so you're looking at things like the stock charts and stuff. You're looking at a very, very similar pattern with that. Now, oil in general does trade kind of like the opposite when it comes to the overall market. So you guys may have seen that the overall market is kind of down today. And I'll pull up QQQ real quick. And for those on TikTok watching, I'll let you know it's at 658 right now, down $6, down about 1% today. And that is a direct inverse of how the oil market is performing. The oil is up. So when oil goes up, the overall sentiment in the market is that that's a bad news for the overall market, right? Because prices go up, people spend less money, people have less confidence in the market. That's no surprise. And oil is actually up 3.5% today on USO, and crude oil is up. Let me check that real quick. About 3.5% as well. So it's pretty similar with those two specifically. But then when you look like other stocks, like Apple individually is up about 1%. And so I know there's several headlines with Apple right now, with it being the new CEO taking over and stuff. So we did get a pretty big surge in the morning. It's been consolidating ever since. So the whole market is just kind of trading sideways right now. There's no real direction that it's taking. And we're looking at VTI, which is one of my, for the people that have been watching my $1 million journey videos, VTI is the biggest holding that I have in that portfolio. Trading a little sideways today as well, down about 0.5% overall, but it's starting to steadily make a comeback as oil comes back down from its high this morning, and it's starting to come back down. It's consolidating a little bit. The market is trying to rebound off of that. And who knows, we might see some more news with oil. We might see some more news with, you get things like any particular headline, as I mentioned, that says the Strait of Hormuz is open, or you get any particular talks of a peace deal at all, any remnant of that, and there are going to be people running to the hills to try to sell their oil, and also to try to buy up other stocks, to try to buy up other things in the market that are currently a little, in their mind, it would be a little undervalued. because we're looking at a market that if there is more stability, then the market has room to grow a little bit. That would be the sentiment at that particular time. But right now, we're just trading sideways. A couple more minutes before I expect there to be a small surge in volume. A lot of people trying to get their trades in again at the end of the day, which would be 4 p.m. There is extended hours, there is overnight hours for some stocks, but there are a lot of traders that still trade on that 4 p.m. A lot of options trade on the 4 p.m. time frame as well. Some of the options have extended hours up until I think maybe 4:15 or 5 p.m., but the majority of those trades are going to be done by 4 p.m. And so we'll see in just a few minutes here what that comes out to be, because I expect USO has calmed down a lot today despite that huge surge this morning. I mean, it went up to like a little over 142, and even crude oil went up because it's right around $100 a barrel right now. Crude oil went up to as much as $102 a barrel, and this was all pre-market. So there was definitely a big buyer there. And looking at the charts here, the RSI was so crazy high at that point. The market wasn't even really open yet at that time. I wish this particular chart gave me a better idea of what time frame this is on, besides just looking at the zoomed out candlesticks here. But overall, I mean, you were up towards 102 a barrel, $102 a barrel for oil, all the way back down to under $100. I think that's good news. In fact, we're probably looking at, if I draw a trend line on the chart here on YouTube, I'm also streaming on YouTube. If we zoom in a little bit, holy cow! I'm trying to get a hold of this here. The trend, it's kind of going down, right? But not by much. Again, it's kind of consolidating. It's kind of trading sideways. It's trading in the middle. There's no real direction at the moment. And the reason why is most likely because you get people that are just waiting for the news, waiting for the headlines. A lot of people are on the edge of their seat right now because nobody knows what's going to happen with a lot of this tension in the world, tension in the Middle East with oil and the Strait of Hormuz being basically closed, surging these prices. I actually think there's a possibility that these charts, when you get over $100 a barrel like that, I think it's possible that the market is undervaluing the crucial bit of the news that we are getting, the breaking news and stuff like that. I think it's undervaluing that a little bit. And the reason I say that is because, again, when it trades on news, it's not trading on reality. And sometimes news is not reality, although it does give you a good idea of what is happening. It doesn't always show you the full picture. A lot of times news is just going to be a simmered down version of what's actually happening. And I think, although we'll get through it, no doomsday talk here, I think that for whatever reason, crude oil right now at about $100 a barrel should be higher, in my opinion. It's not right now. A lot of people in the market are looking at the news to trade, and so far the news with the UAE stepping away from that pact OPEC, with the oil stability. I was just learning about that earlier today. That did cause it to surge earlier today. And now I think that news is past us. That news is keeping us at about $100 a barrel, even though that news was maybe 9 hours ago, right? So that was earlier this morning. And the news itself, it settled down a little bit because there has to be a natural correction. But you're also, in this particular case, right, you're kind of at a fork in the road. You either have more oil that is supplied with the strait being opened and all of this getting slowly resolved and you get to a peace treaty, or you don't. And so then you're kind of splitting away, right? This oil could go higher and higher and higher. We won't really know, but it certainly will go higher if there's no resolution. And that's the thing that these traders are watching. So when they look at these charts, they're looking at technical stuff. So there are certain psychological support and resistances with technical trading that these traders are looking at, but you're also looking at things like this sentiment in the market and in the news and the headlines and stuff, and that will definitely take over some of the technical stuff at some point, short term, not long term, because short term, like as you see on this crude oil future, it surged this morning off of the back of that news, and you're also looking at it correcting back down after the news was kind of over with, right? There is sticker shock sometimes with news in general, and once that settles down, you can kind of see that's pretty evident in the charts here, because we are consolidating. I don't see a big rush in volume as I thought I would. Um, we're about 10 minutes away from close here. I don't see any surge in volume. I had seen surges in volume in days past. A lot of times it surges a little bit just because everybody's trying to get their trades in. But I don't see that. And I think a lot of the reason why this is consolidating is because of the no news is good news, kind of, I guess. No news in this case is like everybody's just kind of waiting for an outcome, right? And without an outcome, you're also looking at people not even knowing how to trade. And you'll see a lot of this sideways stuff from my experience anyway, especially when you don't know what you're trading. A lot of these average moving average lines that I got on here, they're just kind of up and down on that line. They're not breaking above it. They're not going super far below it either. Um, I mean, USO was just a week or two ago was just, let's see, where was it at? It was way lower. Um, yeah, I mean, it was in like the 129s at one point. So it's obvious that this news is carrying the market in oil specifically. Um, Again, oil is kind of a bad thing when it comes to the overall market. When oil goes up, the rest of the market, from my experience, tends to go down. It's kind of inverse of each other. And so you're looking at a chart where if oil goes up, the rest of the market will probably go down, at least for that particular time frame. And so right now, with it trading sideways, the overall market is trading sideways anyway. And so you're not really, like, for me, I was in a trade earlier. I didn't make too much. I made just under 10% on a trade, but I was only in for like $50, right? So I made just under $5, and that, I call that a win because I did have some bad trades that went way south for me specifically, way more than just that. I did recoup some of it a little bit because I was trying to stick to more of a strategy instead of just a feeling. But now I really don't know where this is headed, because when we get to the market tomorrow at 9:30 when it opens, and of course we'll see the pre-market charts before that. I really don't know where this is headed. I think it really ultimately depends on the news, because right, it can go up or down. That's the reality of it. It is a very binary market. It goes up or down at any given point. Now it may trade sideways over a period of time, but overall, it either goes up or down, even if it's pennies. It'll go up to 99.94 where it's at right now, and then it'll go back to 99.90, and it'll trade up and down for a while. But there is only two options for the stocks. They either go up or down, and especially with crude oil, that is very dependent on the news. So we'll really just see how this plays out. I think the news with UAE stepping out of OPEC, that is probably more of a bullish sign, in my opinion, for the overall market, which means oil is probably going to come down. Oil will probably come down. I'm not willing to take an overnight bet on that because it can be so volatile, and oil could open up another $5 higher tomorrow, again, off of the back of some crazy news with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. So we really don't know. And unless you are the one controlling the news, I guess you might know, but I certainly don't know. And so I do not want to trade this at the moment, at least not prediction. I might trade like how I did today. I kind of traded in a reactionary sense. When I saw these couple of big bullish candles right here, these two or three big green candles, that surge in volume right there, I traded the way down. So when I traded, I bought in when it was at the high, thinking that it would go down, and I did make a little bit of money on that. Not much, but yeah, call it a winning trade. I learned a little bit, and so we'll keep building off of that knowledge. I think at the moment, this particular trend here, like, so you got a couple of higher lows and you also have a couple of lower highs. That to me is a bullish sign for USO, or for in this case crude oil, but USO is going to be a similar pattern. The thing with this, it looks like because it's consolidating, if it breaks above this line and it stays above it, right? Because it would have to surge all the way up over $100 a barrel again, like maybe $100.50 or so. And if it does that, then we're probably looking at it surging even more, right? Because you're probably looking at a price that's at least up to the next dollar, which is a big move if you're trading options. So, but I think this would be more of a bullish flag if I am utilizing my knowledge correctly. I would think that that is a bullish sign for the short term on the charts. But again, we'll see tomorrow with the market closing in just a few minutes here. I'm going to be wrapping up this live stream. I'm going to be doing the daily $1 to $1 million journey update as well in just a few moments. So that will be available so you guys can see what I was working on today during the markets. But to give you a little bit of a backstory, I bought, it's actually in my recent orders here, but it can't be seen on YouTube because my face cam is covering it. So I will just tell you, I went into a trade. I bought a put, so that means I think the stock's going to go down. And I did that mainly because there was a huge surge in volume going up. So I knew that at some point, because I've traded in the market many times, it will come back down at some point. I was utilizing my best analytics, if you will say, to kind of identify a spot in which it may kind of settle down and then at some point come back a little bit. And my thinking here, which it's a little zoomed in here. I wonder if we can get, there we go. Get them out a little bit, but these bullish candles here. So what I did was I saw there was this big bullish candle here to kind of correct off of this red one. There was a smaller one here because it was testing this average here, this moving average. Once it broke above that, it really broke above that, and it even surged up even more on this next one here. These are 5-minute candles. So over a 10-minute period, it went up $1, right? And I knew that this red candlestick here was a good sign for me because it was cooling off. But not only that, there's a couple of other resistances here. And so when I figured out that it was probably cooling off, I figured out that it was probably in my favor to monitor this a little bit more. Once I saw this candlestick close, this green one closed around the same price, it didn't really surge up like it had been. I thought that's probably a good place to enter the trade. And I actually went my way, even though it came back a little bit, it fell even more. And I was able to get out of the trade for about a $5. It was actually about a $4 profit after the options fees and stuff like that. And I was only in for about 50 bucks. So a little under 10% was an 8 or 9% win. I still got a little bit of a comeback to do. I had a couple of bad trades that made the portfolio suffer a little bit. And so that's okay. I'm learning along the way. But I felt pretty good about taking that trade. It looked good on the charts, and it turns out that it went my favor. So I'll take that. Right now, again, still trading sideways. There's a little bit of surge in volume. If you're on YouTube, you might be able to see a little surge here towards the end of the trading day. I probably won't enter in another trade for today. A lot of the stocks and everything that I buy are for the long term anyway. And so the amount of day trading I do is just a very small amount to try to learn bits and pieces along the way. But otherwise, I am investing in long-term investing. So we get dividend stocks, we get stocks that we think are just going to continue up over time. That's what I invest in mostly, and I'm going to keep it that way. But I am not going to short myself by not trying to learn the day-to-day stock trading and see what I can do with it, because I do know a little bit about it, and I'm going to continue to test my knowledge with that. So I appreciate you guys joining in the live today. I had a couple of you guys kind of in and out the live all day when I was I started about 3:30. Had a couple of you guys in and out of the live today, and I really appreciate that. A couple of likes on the lives as well. I'll be doing more of these live streams. I might even be able to do one tomorrow morning to give you guys a little bit more of a view on the opening hours, because when market opens, it's a lot more volatile. There's a lot more things to talk about. Right now, the market is just trading sideways, and so the most of the trading has already been done for the day, with the market closing in less than a minute now. You'll have some extended hours trading and stuff, but there's not nearly as much volume during those extended hour periods than there are when the market opens. And especially when it first opens at 9:30, there's a lot of volatility, a lot of surging on the stocks. So you'll see over time, I'm probably going to try to go live tomorrow, actually, at about maybe 8:45 to 9 o'clock a.m. The market opens at 9:30. I'll be able to talk more about the sentiment of the market. It looks like we're getting a little bit of a sell-off here too, on some oil. So that's a good sign, that people think that oil is coming back down. We'll see. A little bit of a surge here at the end of the market. That was the surge I was looking for, actually. You'll see there's a little bit of a volume surge on this chart. And I know on TikTok I don't have those charts for you. I'm gonna actually work on getting those charts on there as well. But I'm also streaming on YouTube, so I have those charts that I'm analyzing in real time on here. And you'll see that that's the volume spike I was looking for. Not a huge spike, but it was, well, this was a huge spike here. I don't know what happened there. But the spike for the end of trading hours usually happens within that last 10 to 15 minutes. And in this case, it happened in the last 2 or 3 minutes. So the market is officially closed now. And so we won't see as much trading going on for the rest of the day. But I know some extended markets are open until 8 p.m. Some of them are actually open overnight, but I do not do those extended hours and overnight trading. I do trading during normal market hours, which is 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And so with the market being closed now, we are going to end the live stream. But anybody who's tuned, I actually have 4 people on the live stream on TikTok, and I really appreciate you guys watching, even if you're not chatting with me, talking to myself, and that's okay. Because it's a learning experience for me. But if you did tune in, if you liked the stream, if you got anything of value in this live stream, I really do appreciate you tuning in. And if you learned something new, that is a plus for me to be able to help you learn something new. But anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here for the day. Probably have another live stream for you tomorrow. But if not, we'll have another live stream coming soon. So for now, guys, I will see you later. Stay green. Don't forget to stay green. I'll have my portfolio updates in just a moment. You guys have a great rest of your day.